smart. I think we have like a specific agenda. As like, there are some people, 2 people here specifically, and one more is going to join us in a little bit.
I'll go on video here.
It's your choice.
Yeah, no, today I can't.
It's your choice.
I went to my studio. That's what took me a little while to set up.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. You can.
Just I mean my.
Or you can. Oh wow. Yeah, it looks different from last time.
It is.
I think what we're gonna do is like it's gonna be specifically like me and Sam talking a bit because there's some questions we have specifically about what we're doing, and people might ask because there's not a lot of people who are here don't know much about Bop It or a lot of your work except for, well, obviously Bop It. So they're kind of here to learn a little bit, especially David DeVito is a voice actor who's joined us recently. He's really excited to be working with us and to meet you as well.
Yeah, why don't we just start with introductions and just why doesn't each person just say something just so I can hear your voice, say hi, so that if we do something on voice, I know who's talking. But, I'll say I'm Dan. I am an industrial designer who invented a few toys. And I'm here because I really want to support you guys being such amazing fans. And this year, I am specifically trying to devote time to people that are to give back in ways for all the great, amazing. It's been 25 years, and of all the products I've invented, Bop It, of course, is a once in a lifetime thing. So the fact that you guys are so focused on that as well as other electronic games, I think is basically the only group that I'm doing this with because you guys are special. So I appreciate all the enthusiasm you have and trying to help guide in ways that I can, projects, and support them, and hopefully, as things move forward, just see what happens. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. I guess I'll go next. Dan, so nice to meet you. My name is David DeVino, and I basically I'm a voice actor. I do video games and animation, and of course commercial work as well. And I felt like I kind of hit a home run and got lucky, and I auditioned for something on Voices.com, and I got to meet these wonderful people, and subsequently got to meet you, and I feel like I'm part of the Bop It team. So I was happy about my good audition, and happy about this. This is super cool, man. Pleasure.
Yeah, very cool. This is the Bop It fan offshoot.
It's the Bop It Rift team.
The Rift, I like it.
Yeah.
Because again, like this server, I titled it a while back, Bop It Rift. It was actually supposed to be a place for my designs, but again, it's kind of been repurposed to now being this big fan community where not just Bop It fans, but people who grew up with Bop It come here and kind of learn about, well, not just your work, but about how impactful it's kind of been to a lot of people, especially me, because there's a few stories a lot of us have had, obviously, with Bop It.
Yeah, I want to cover that. That's something on my agenda today, is talk a little bit about Bop It stories and what I'm doing this year and what I would like to reach out to your community to participate in. So why don't we finish with everyone, and then I'll do that.
I will let Atakuro go next, I guess.
Atakuro? Okay.
Yeah. If the year was still 2002, would you make a blue version of the would you make a blue color of the Bop It Extreme 2?
If it was 2002, the Bop It Extreme 2 or the Bop It Extreme, the first version? You mean 2002 would have been
Bop It Extreme 2.
Yeah. Bop It. Technically, in my mind, but yeah, let me get that off the wall so I make sure it's. Or you guys probably have it.
Yeah. I unfortunately don't have the Extreme 2. I only have the oldest one I have, or the original, the Extreme, and everything I just got in the store. Wait, Atakuro, did you ask that because of the design I created?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I know what he's talking about. One of the designs, the art I sent you actually was a custom recolor of the Bop It Extreme 2, where it's all blue. It's based off like the black and white ones that were the UK exclusives.
Right. Here's a pink one, you guys. I think somebody who's seen. These are just. Is this the one you're talking about, Adakuro?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
but what if it was blue?
It could be. I mean, I think it's been customized probably. This one I've seen some people do custom paint jobs, and you know, it's hard to say going back. I think that going forward, in other things that I'm working on, I'm trying to create things that are more for your environment, where if it's a Bop It type thing, and things that you can leave out and they look good in your room, and probably do them in several colors. So that's a whole nother thing, is what color things are in design is a big. It really creates a lot of emotions, I know, for certain people. What do you like about blue, or that particular blue?
Well, my favorite color is blue.
Okay. Well, that's a good reason.
Yeah,
There's a lot of colors of blue, several. So you have to pick one. But no, I think the colors of Bop It are like this teal blue that it was originally. That's sort of, to me, the Bop It. You know, it's not really a blue. It's definitely a teal, but some people call it blue. Anyway, who else do we have?
I think
Fantastic.
we got Sam
Yeah.
to introduce.
I'm
I
Sam,
want
and
to see what Sam Tastic's up to.
yeah, I'm Sam. I've been a YouTuber for 10 years now, and I make a lot of videos on Bop Its and other electronic games, and I have Bop It since I was like young, when I was like first starting school around like when I was like 5 or 6 years old. I had the original Bop It, and I've been playing it ever since then. So I'm a long time YouTuber, and yeah, I've been playing Bop Its and other electronic games and video games and all kinds of games. So yeah.
How many world records on electronic games do you have, Sam?
Well, I have the world record for Bop It Tetris. I actually have 866 on that one, and I have one on Bop It Smash. I have 1070, and Buddy can't say, he can't announce anything past 999. Yeah.
It's amazing, man. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So cool.
He's a savant.
I was just gonna say, you took it right out of my mouth. He's a savant. He's a savant.
No, he's well known.
It's actually genetic because he made videos a while back of him and his grandfather playing these games. He's almost just as skilled as Sam is.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, there's a video of him playing NuJam with Sam, and it's a really awesome thing. I would recommend you check it out. It's his Pops and I Play series.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, NuJam is one of my as you guys know, one of my favorite. I don't know, a lot of people don't know it. I don't know, David, if you know it, but it's this incredible. Or are you familiar with it now? Have they introduced you to NuJam?
A little bit. I'm slowly but surely.
Sam, grab your NuJam.
Yeah.
And I remember some of these commercials to some of these games from years ago too. So super
Well,
cool.
the NuJam is, for years, honestly, from before Bop It was created, I've been working on how to make music and combine in games, and have done many, many things, many of which no one's seen ever. But the ones that have made it, the NuJam was a spectacular product. I thought that I created a lot of the music and how the music would work, and how to combine a game that was sort of Bop It like, sort of like Simon, but made you feel like you were playing guitar, and it was before Guitar Hero and any of those things. It was I don't know, you guys, don't you think? In some ways, it's the best of all the games because it really creates a feeling of immersion. But the public didn't get it as well because they thought of it more like a toy guitar instead of a Bop It, is what I think. So it was a marketing issue, and there was a problem with the chip. A switch. And I don't know, have you guys, I talked to you about it before, have you ever gotten a new
You discussed it before with us.
Yeah,
I
actually
believe.
found one.
The slide up switch was defective.
But you've never gotten one that has a slide up switch that's defective?
Actually, Sam did get a version of the NuJam a few months ago. It was titled the Rocket Bop It Guitar, and it did not work as properly as the one he has right there.
Yeah.
Is that the one that was just considered defective?
I think it was potentially named that that might have been English. England or some other place, I've seen that, which surprised me because we called it that, and then they said they couldn't use the name, and then we had NuJam was actually a name from a video game that my partner Gary had worked on that he owned the rights to the name. So we had the name, and they had to drop whatever the name was in a hurry, and they just sort of picked it. And we never thought it was that great of a name. I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like the logo, but it was a rush, and so it's unfortunate. That product we've tried to bring back. It actually did get licensed several times to other toy companies, but it's still never come back. And I appreciate that this group are really big fans of it, so that's pretty awesome. But you should play it.
Well, yeah, it hasn't come back in its true form until now, at least.
Well, I don't know what you guys are really doing. Its true form in a three-dimensional tooled toy is what.
Yeah, something like that. Because as you said, though, you've given us the samples. One thing I'd like to ask you, though, are we permitted to share them within just the group, just the team? Because there's some synchronization that's going to be needed with the rigging and how the game is going to properly perform.
You can share them with people that are working with you. I'd like them, I don't want to go legal. It's more to protect you guys as well, but to just say that you have some acknowledgement in a text form somewhere in Discord that says, you need to agree that these are for the purposes of a hobby use only right now, and not to be sold or used in a game that's sold for money until, that this concept that I'm helping you with is, if you're doing it as a hobbyist as a free game, it is a business model, and that if it all of a sudden takes off as a free game, then it's possible, and if it's high quality, it's possible there might be a business model to actually make money on it. But it has to be, until we decide that, it has to be known that it's for purposes of this game only, and not to be used, in other social media or anything like that. So,
there's no other plan. We've kept them lock and chain. Nobody else has them except for me and Sam at the moment. But they've been heard before. Like I play them through my speakers or through my camera software. They never been properly recorded, and they're actually remixes used for just me and Sam goofing off. We haven't shared them with anybody, though. Nobody has those files.
I know that's the case. I mean, I'm repeating it so David hears it as well, that's how this came about, and it's a very special circumstance that my partners and I agreed we would let you guys access. And I know you have some other files I've been looking for. I try to hand select stuff and not give you. I can't give you the voice files because it's not fair to the actor. And we
actually have.
Create your own voice files. That's why
we actually have a voice actor named Ian, who actually sounds very similar to the voice actor for the NuJam. He's very low. He has a very low voice, and he actually fits the role pretty well. In fact, actually after this, or maybe I can play it on the Groovy Bot, I can show you an example of how he sounds, because we remixed him with a sample Sam created with the guitar samples of a game of Group Jam. If you'd like, I can play that for you.
Sound cool. Yeah, but there are some other.
Right.
I know Sam, you sent me something. Samtastic. You sent me something that said you needed a few. There's still a lot of files you guys are looking for if we're doing.
Unfortunately, yeah, and I could speak on his behalf as well because I also have them. A few of the files are actually missing. We have some of the unfinished ones, which is fine. It's not like, oh, we need this immediately. No, this game is going to take a while to make. And as you said, I remember in your first meeting, you said this is a way you could try to tie it into Bop It for good if you could. So the files we currently don't have are some of the finished files, which include the slide up sound and the twisting sound. And the victory sound is corrupt. We can't play it, unfortunately.
I managed to restore it a little
bit. It does not play properly.
I restored it. I only got
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go through them.
So that's
a folder, and I have, I found, like I said, the main archive. I had to unpack them and do stuff, so it could be that as that, in the process of unpacking the files, something happened. I'll take a look. It's just, I figured that was good enough to get you guys started, but I'm positive I can find whatever you need in terms of music eventually.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's just really about what we can use, like, and as well as the name, though, we've made some determinations. The full name would be called NuJam Rockout, but because of copyright issues and stuff like it used to be Rockout.
All right.
It's just going to be
Rock
Rockout.
Out. I mean, I kind of recommended call it Rock Out, a tribute to NuJam, or and then so that it kind of has, it doesn't appear that you're just. It's really hard when people go, oh, you just knocked that off. But give it your own name so you can own that name and say a tribute to NuJam or to NuJam fans or whatever. Then it sets you up so that if there is something
Tribute
cool,
to Bop It.
you could say a tribute to Bop It and NuJam or whatever, just as as something that when you open the app or the program, you see that. I just feel that way. If there's ever a question about it, it's so much easier for me to explain. I doubt anything Hasbro will, they support me and all the Bop It for good stuff. But it's that, it just sort of shows that you're up front with the fact that this is a side project and not, it's not using intellectual property. It's a tribute to the intellectual property. I think it'll serve you well.
It's attribution to.
Guys, really quick, forgive my interruption. I actually have a hard stop. I have to go right now. But Dan, such a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to talking with you again. Guys, you guys rock, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you, David. And
All right, thank you, David.
Just to associate the voice with the face, especially in your case, so I look forward to working with you.
Super
Okay.
cool. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So yeah, he's one of the voices. He's actually Sam is actually. I have a question for you. Were you involved with the development of the game Break the Board?
Yeah, I invented Break the Board.
Actually, so we did something funny. I want to show you.
Okay.
So a while back when Sam was playing Break the Board, which by the way he's trying to get a record on,
Cool.
I did one of my impersonations of it. I'm like, slide your hand under the flashing light to start the game. That's not it, obviously. But I noticed actually it sounds very similar to Disney Channel. So what me and Sam went and did is we put up this fake job post on Voices, and this guy who sounds like the Disney Channel guy actually auditioned, and I'm not even joking, it sounds just like him. It's a joke, yeah, but it's just for the sake, like, and we confirmed on it. It's not for any sort of recreational use of a
that
product.
Voice might be. Now I'm spacing out on who's the voice. I think it might be the same person that we did for. God, we went through a bunch of different voices on it. Anyway, I'll have to look it up who it is, but it doesn't.
That's fine. Well, Sam noticed something similar. Is that the voice that you sent us and the voice that is in Break the Board sound very similar?
I
Could it
think
possibly be the same person?
I think it is Adam. Yeah, Adam Rossi.
Yeah.
So I think because he's also, I think, the voice of Groove It, if I'm not mistaken. If you listen carefully. It's hard to remember. There are two guys that we work with at a sound studio, and they do all of our, like, when we do a mock-up of a Bop It or something like that, we use their voice as placeholders. And then sometimes,
Makes sense.
and I think on Bop It Beats, we might have used their voice. I'm not sure, but they've kind of become like, oh, we use it as placeholder, then I think Hasbro sort of says, we'll just go with it. No, for better or worse, So but I'm trying to get that clear. What's funny is sometimes I lose track because I'm thinking that it's the placeholder sound, and then I realize, oh, that's the production sound. So, we'll try to get clear on that.
I'm going to play a quick sample of how it sounds. I'm just going to play through my microphone. So this is a guy named Marcus, and he auditioned a while back. We haven't been able to contact him again because he unfortunately left. And yeah, me and Sam had a lot of fun with this guy. Just how close he sounds to Disney Channel. He did it twice, but I'm only going to play the one verse. Here we go.
Slide your hand under the flashing light to start the game. Only on Disney Channel.
That's funny.
That's a joke we've been working on. Like, and then actually how we found David. David was another audition, like Sam just tries to find a break the board impersonator. We don't look for the actual voice, by the way. We look for just impersonators. We don't look for legit people. Like, I think the only legit person, like, I've asked Sam about, or I wanted to talk to him, or he's wanted to talk to, as I've said before, asked you, would have to be Buddy, but as you said, he's very busy right now. But he's
busy, and he has a manager that is very sort of, I'm actually talking to them about even, I just don't want to impose on him. He's been polite, and he does those riffs with me, kind of because we connect on other things we're trying to do for charities, whatever, but it's kind of pushing the limit, and I've told him about you guys, and he said, if it's okay, maybe someday, but he just doesn't want to promise anything, and his manager is sort of saying, it's somehow, he's a very private guy too, like he goes on a lot of meditation trips, things like, he doesn't really want to get involved talking to a bunch of guys in a group, but he's promised to do it someday. I just don't want anyone saying, we're going to be talking to Buddy Rubino. Like, I know, Sam, you get excited, fantastic, but it's absolutely not planned yet, but I'm hopeful maybe someday, and you'll be the first to know if he says, okay, I'd like to, do something where I talk to Bop It fans. So that's all. I said all that to TGR in my note, but I just wanted to tell you why. It isn't that he's not supportive, it's just he sort of had to draw the line.
Yeah, that's understandable, especially I get it, he's a top-notch VA, he's got a lot of projects and stuff, and we don't want to force anything on him. It would just be something that I think that would just be probably a one-time thing, like we don't wish to ask him to do something, no, we just would like to talk to him, and that's really the plan, and I understand his feeling, we're not going to go against that, but we'll be waiting.
But I thought I posted it, if not, I'll find them for you. You guys requested a few sounds through Instagram, and I did have him do Damage Dude, and I thought we had...
Wait, I didn't know about that, actually. I didn't know you had him say Damage Dude.
I asked him to do, I said, I know you can't really talk to them, but I had him do a few sounds, and I thought I posted them on one of the videos, and I didn't hear from you guys, but it's possible it could be in my drafts. So let me make a note. I will promise to look. I know you guys had a couple of sounds that you, or thought, ideas of words you would have liked, and so I tried to slip you in there. And if I can get that for you, it's kind of just fun for you to have personally.
Yeah, that's understandable, especially one thing I think I want to talk about that's bigger about this is that if the game does well enough and Hasbro wants to make a deal, what is most likely going to happen? Are they going to try? Are they going to give it? Are they going to keep selling the game as is? Are they going to give it to Electronic Arts? Are they going to try and change anything? What's most likely the case?
The most likely case is that it would be. It's such a long shot. Only in that. Well, as I've said, I think it's wonderful that you're going for it. It's the level of production, as you know, and interface and code and issues and things that it's just almost impossible that you would create something good to go that didn't need, if Hasbro's going to put their name behind it, or Electronic Arts, it's got to be at such a high level. We can't even, we've done stuff with certain developers, and then they redo the whole thing with their developers. So it's just tricky. It's like it all depends on how good are the graphics and the gameplay and the interface, the sound. If it's top notch and it's a free app and it's starting to get traction, and then I'm happy to say, hey, this is pretty cool. Let's throw this let's figure out a model, and the best thing I can do there is potentially at least just get, you're proving out that we could get the rights. If I say I personally believe this is high enough quality to represent a licensed product, my goal is to do it without them charging you. I'm trying to make sure Hasbro doesn't, because the minute you go to their licensing division, believe me, for me, even to get the Unibop as a separate project for me is a nightmare of legal. It's just not even possible to, you don't have a legal team. They just can't do anything simple. They have to run it through all sorts of legalities and indemnity clauses and stuff. So I'm trying to have you avoid. If you ask, they'll just say no. So the best thing is to do it, right? And if successful as a free app and saying it's just a tribute app, wait until that point, and then if that happens, my feeling is the best deal is to sort of hope you can get permission to sell it as kind of a fan-based app that perhaps you can make some money on, like you can get permission to charge for it at some point. But I think it's very delicate. I don't want to overstate it, but I just want to make sure to be realistic that I would have been more optimistic several years ago, but there hasn't been one interaction. Like I'm trying to do an NFT with Bop It right now. It's been months. They just can't get anything. There's nothing simple with them. So that's why I'm trying to protect you from their legal side. It's just too hard,
Yeah, understandable. Especially since, if you think about it, Hasbro's multinational. We're just one little group of fans, and it's understandable how the odds aren't always all on our side. But I have a motto. I always think it: just always stick with your beliefs, and you'll always succeed. That's my biggest belief for this.
I think sticking with your beliefs, and that you guys have a lot of passion. You have a lot of Bop It knowledge. You guys are really experts at gameplay.
Yeah, especially since I'm making a lot of stuff now. Especially if you see the background behind the dog, that's one of my customizable. It's based off the 2002. Sure. It's not just now as knowledge though. I've actually helped people they see it more now as almost an art style, which is what I'm doing. Kind of the almost Andy Warhol Bop It. Which, by the way, I've sent you some artwork for Bop It for Good, which I'm also letting you know that I'm open to do any sort of work for you for your concept. So I'd be happy to do anything in terms of that for you.
Sure. Well, if I can, I think it's a great offer. I appreciate it, and I'll be working.
Especially since a lot of my.
Go ahead.
I think it's really he just has his microphone. I think that one of the most partial things about this is that a lot of the stuff I do, people actually say looks official. They actually think it's official until I announce, no, this is just fan. And I do denounce the rights again to KID and Hasbro, which actually brings up another question about this game. What are we allowed to say? Who are we allowed to say that is involved with this project? I know we might not be able to say you or KID, but who can we say is involved?
I think you should say that you're doing it with permission of the original creators.
Okay, sure. And KID, the other people at KID are fine with us doing this?
Yeah, no, I've told them about it. I've told them that you're exactly like I said, it's not for resale, but it's hobbyist. They thought it was a great idea. They left it up to me, to just say, just use my judgment. And I think for now you can just say done with permission, and just say thank you to the creators for helping support this project, to the original creators. You can say this is being done with the guys who originally did. You can say the kid group if you'd like.
Can I say with permission from KID group and the original creator of Bop It?
Sure. You can say that. You can say that it's with permission, as we're saying, but clearly not to be too legal. Permission as a not-for-profit.
As not for resale purposes, for a hobbyist purpose.
I would just say as a not-for-profit.
Yeah. And actually, I have an example right here loaded up of how our voice sounds. This is going to be an example of how Group Jam would sound with our voice Ian. So this is his Who's Next and Let's Do This with the pause in between as it goes on. Here you go.
Who's next?
unless he's the...
Very much deeper than the original.
He sounds actually, I think the closest to one of the roles aside from who was originally on. He sounds like him, and you know, me and Sam tend to find, like, if you remember the last time, Chris Pallister, I sent you that audio demo of how it would have sounded if we were going to use the name of Bop It and kind of keep that design. That's how it would have sounded. But if we're just making it just as NuJam was, we're just gonna keep it with like the vocals. And I'm actually gonna, now that I know that you said that we can give it to people involved with the team, I'm actually gonna give it to our guitar player Baki, who's gonna create who said he wants to create a redux version of the sound effects. Like everything will play as normal, but he's gonna add more music to it. He's gonna add some more riffs, and we have a plan where actually the command called out is actually gonna be his sample, and then the action when you actually do the action is gonna be the original sample. That's a plan we have to make it repeat my rhythm.
You guys understand the structure of NuJam well. I think as I explained, one of the most important things that I worked on probably for a solid week. I literally did nothing but we had all these sound files, and I tried to really take what we called the calls and responses and make them unique. You know, that as you know, the strum sounds all have a certain quality to them, so you know they're a strum sound, of course, and the slide up, slide down, and the twist each have a certain sort of type of sound, and as long as you keep the sounds within those genres so that someone who can't see can still play the game, then it's fine, right? I have just in my opinion that you know that it's a strum versus a slide, because a lot of people go, oh, you can do anything with it, and say, well, no, that's why it's a great game, a great music game, is it cleverly, for if you're a musician, you can really hear it, you can play without looking at it, and I think a lot of people don't get that. They think, oh, you can just do anything because you're looking at it. It's like, well, good guitarists don't look down, they just play. So that's why I think it's different, of course, than a Guitar Hero or anything like that, is it's a game that you know, it's one of the only music games you could play like that without looking. And so I just recommend keeping, as you change riffs, I think you guys, I probably don't have to tell you, you're probably fully aware of that.
We're not planning to change the riffs, though. We're just planning to add more, and we have thought about, as most of the electronic game community is blind, we promised them, like before we met you, we promised them that this would be accessible to blind and, if at all possible, deaf, because the original NuJam flashes when the commands are called, so I think we can add something like that.
Yeah, it does flash, but it is playable without sight.
Yeah.
And so that would.
Yeah, and you have to think about people without hearing, because, well, I want to make a game we'd like to make a game for everybody.
Yeah. No, you can play it without. You're exactly right. That's what we wanted it to be for both. But there's so many video games and things that people who can see but can't hear can play. There's much fewer things for people who are blind, so I've been more focused on that. So that's definitely great to hear, and I'm anxious to hear anything you work on. As I said, it's a wonderful product. It may come back. You know, I really keep pushing it. My partners and I, it's one of the things we're proudest of, and would love to make it, you know, we've talked about it with Hasbro several times. When can we bring this back? It's possible, you know, so in 2024, it's going to be a big year for Bop It. 2023 is a big year for Simon, and we have possibly 2 new Simon games we've created that are very different than anything we've done before that are going to be coming out with Hasbro. Hopefully, as I've told you, there'll be a new Bop It Extreme as sort of a first pass at something new, but that we're hoping that 2024 has a very big Bop It statement with the brand, whole new designs for everything, and I'm pushing to bring a NuJam style, guitar Bop It back, because I think it's one of the best games that didn't get its due. But there's also talk about bringing back limited quantities of Tetris and Smash, and we are working on a version of Smash with another company right now that we're trying to fix a few of the things. People like Sam Tastic can get 1,000 on that, but I can't ever get over about 250 because the code is totally different than what we programmed in our prototype, which smoothly allowed you to go up to higher levels, whereas that one, as you know, it just all of a sudden gets impossible, and for most people. So we're just, I think you guys are sensitive to all that. So what I'd love to do is, as we get prototypes of things at some point, I would love to have you guys test them, because I think, getting you in that mode would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think when people, a lot of people come from a community, a lot of people in here are coming from a community to open up and see some new stuff because I've recommended it a bunch. And actually, this brings up another game that we want to recreate as almost a Bop It Smash-like game, and that is Solar Spin, which I actually showed you a while back, that arcade game. As you said, Bop It Smash is based off that style of gameplay.
But you also know that Simon Swipe, that we built that game as a three-dimensional game. I think I've shown prototypes of it on my social media.
I remember, actually, there was a video you created years ago of actually a giant version of it.
There was a giant version of it, but there is also, that is a prototype, Flash Ring it was called, and it was a prototype that led to the invention of Simon Swipe. And I was going to do a story on that to show how Simon Swipe was invented. But it started out as a Bop It with lights. It's kind of a musical Bop It with lights, but it was a ring.
But honestly, that sounds almost like a callback to the Blast and the Download in a sense.
Well, it was after, it was, except that those I didn't think were successful. Unfortunately, the designer at Hasbro worked on those without involved. That was the last time they did Bop Its without involving Kid Group. They just sort of tried to do something, and they wouldn't. See, a lot of companies don't tell you what they're doing with your invention. And then since then, Kid Group has done all the programming on all the Bop Its since then, and that's why they're such higher quality. Those didn't play well. Bop It Blast didn't play.
They need to know, it's like a specific formula they didn't follow.
They didn't follow the formula. They broke some rules of what were unique to Bop It. The whole thing with the lights didn't work. And what's good about Smash was it was just taking the timing of taking the circular game that's existed for many years and trying to make it work as a linear game. But but the circular game, you swiped your hand over it and back to play. And when I showed it to the guys at Hasbro long ago, I had lunch with the head of marketing, and I said, why aren't we doing this? And Bop It, your guys below you keep passing on this. And he goes, well, yeah, I can see why for Bop It, but could it be Simon? And I said, I don't see why not. So then that was the first time Simon had been reinvigorated in years. So why Simon Swipe is significant is that's how all the, Simon and Simon Air and Optics, all the ones we've created, all started with one comment that a guy made at lunch, which is why, instead of Bop It, could this be Simon? But just to give you an idea of, when you build a working prototype, it really teaches you what it should be. Sometimes you think you know what you're doing, and then it evolves. And but have you checked online to see there must be other people who've done apps where it's like simulating the Stop the Light game from arcade.
I've checked. There are many versions of it. There are actually a few, but they're not exactly like the one we wish to recreate. They're similar, but they're not the same. They're mostly either based off of another game, which I don't know the name of, or Match 'em Up, which is by the same company. And This is actually a game we wish to recreate because this is one that's been defunct since actually. So the company is called Lasertron, which was an arcade division of Acclaim, and they released Solar Spin in '96 as it was one of their top-selling games. In fact, actually, Kane and me did a little in-depth thing. We went onto the Wayback Machine, and we found out that this game had actually been a good success, but it was never explained how it went into the dirt because the copyright for the game went defunct in 2003, and the last game Lasertron created was in 2004, and all their copyrights are defunct. We can't tell what happened, and we don't. And as those copyrights are not around, we might be able to pull this off, but I can't really tell. So that's why I kind of wanted to ask you about it.
My feeling is it's sort of a generic game at this point. I don't think you should worry. I mean, names are copyrightable. That kind of gameplay isn't copyrightable. Really, I wouldn't worry about the gameplay, but if you have a name you want to use, if there's no trademark for it today, then it's expired. You can use it.
The only thing is that when me and Kane were looking through this is why I wanted to talk to you about it first before we pull off something like this, because the original creation, when we looked at it, the Solar Spin copyright was defunct in 2003 and was deemed unable for revival. I don't understand what that means, so that's why I kind of wanted to discuss with you about this before we pull this off. And it's not just like completely recreating the game. It's almost like a Bop It Smash where there's like level variances. It speeds up different types of riffs on the music and stuff like that. It was kind of like an expansion based off a thing, and we would also make that in a tribute to Bop It Smash and KID and Hasbro.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. I want to make sure as you take on these projects that it serves your purpose as well, and just help guide you on. You don't need to worry about certain things, but it's, to say it's a tribute to games that inspired you is always a good thing, and I think it can help give. I think that's the only thing is I'd like to see games when they're final before, and if I say, yeah, I'd like to be able to say I endorse this game, I'm happy to do that for you, but I just need to see it before you say that, obviously.
Yeah.
And then that would be fine. I think, did you ever play the Bop It Smash app that we created?
I actually did,
Yeah.
Several times before it went down. I remember playing it on the school bus a lot. It was a really fun game. I actually got a few on the leaderboard a few times.
I think it was pretty cool. It was hard for me because I'm just so into physical things that those, the Bop Its have never translated to apps very well.
I think that the original app was probably the best transition. It's just that I don't understand like there were like 15 or so commands. I didn't understand that. It reminded me actually a lot of, again, like I used this in the last meeting, mentioned this, it reminded me a lot of the game show.
Yeah.
Was the game show in any way some inspiration on that, or were they completely separate at the time?
Game show, when they were going to do a game show, they maybe asked for some of the ideas we had, and I think I shared some thoughts on how you can it anything. It doesn't mean that it's fun, I think what we've tried to do with any expansions of Bop It, like the gesture-based one, is make sure that as much as possible within the technology, and again, remember, this isn't a phone. We don't have the accelerometers that you get when you pay $600 for something. It's a teeny little accelerometer that has very little capability. So when you have hammer it and selfie it and all those, we tried to create moves that were all distinct from each other. And when you get too many moves, they start to blur together and they're no longer distinct from each other. And I think what you're sort of saying is that it gets a little bit too many moves isn't when there's two moves that are sort of the same move but named something different, it's not as fun. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, if you remember in the original meeting we had in December on Zoom, like I said though, the simplicity usually wins. It's not like you can't put that much on. It's usually the simplicity that people would like. But the idea of like having commands swap out so it would become less convoluted is a good idea, at least. Like, I like that idea, how like the classic commands would eventually be replaced by some newer commands, which is fine. But then when you keep going further into the game, they would pick back up and all the commands would be available, and that would be kind of hard to keep up with, especially with at the speed that the game is going at.
Yeah, I like that. I think we mentioned that swapping out moves. That's important.
Well,
It's kind of
actually,
like, it's knowing that the magic of only 3 moves. I even felt that way about Bop It Extreme. I felt that although it's a totally different game when you have 5 moves instead of 3, and people don't quite get that.
In ways, yeah, that's understandable. Especially with how Bop It is like Bop It has actually mostly kind of become its own thing. Like, if you remember, Bronson Poland, who was in our last one, had asked about the character Bop Its. I think I like the idea of having them be completely separate in terms of how their design works in different commands, rather than just being the same game.
Believe me, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds more like it could be a vinyl series. It sounds more like, instead of it just being a regular Bop It. Maybe that's something I'm suggesting to you, that you could pitch out to Hasbro to have it be more of a novelty.
Well, believe me, we've done about 100 pitches you've never seen. That's why I'd like to say I hate saying to people, we've already thought of that, we've already thought of that, we've already thought of that. I like hearing things and saying, like I told you in the text, great idea. When I say great idea, it doesn't mean we haven't done it already. It just means I appreciate that you've had the same idea possibly. And I can go into great depth if it teaches you something about why they didn't take one idea versus another. But, the files of Bop It attempts are huge. And so it's better not to tell people about them. One, I can't. But the other is it doesn't influence you in case you come up with something. It just lets you have your own creativity. Bop It and characters I'm doing a lot of work with in trying to figure out ways to let people build their own. A DIY sort of Bop It, where I think just having a little kit where people can create their own is the best solution, because then people can get creative with it, record their own voices, do whatever they want, but make it so that non-nerds can do it, just make it kind of like what Bop It Maker attempted, but much more like something where you can download stuff and make your own really cool characters. And so I kind of have a lot of plans for that, sort of like how to Bopify things, but it's very hard to do through Hasbro. They need too much scale. So they can only do things like top movies that are popular at the moment, like Spider-Man. There's a new Spider-Man Bop It coming out.
That's unfortunately, I think, how these types of things would fade away, especially because I remember actually Hasbro had gotten a deal with a bunch of games like Fortnite. I knew nobody who took interest in them. That's the problem, though. Fads easily wear off. I think that the only one I could really think of that would have stood the test of time would probably be the R2D2. But this is just my opinion. Like, I'm not trying to slow you down.
No, I really appreciate it. You guys really understand it. I don't know. Samtastic, what do you think about this whole topic? What do you like or don't like about the characters?
Well, I know in one of the groups on Discord, a lot of people over there, they don't like the Olaf Bop It that much. Yeah, they don't like the Olaf Bop It.
I think that was actually one of the ones that I think didn't sell. I think that's one of the few that probably got people scratching their head, especially since there's been some talk actually within the community that Hasbro,
which one?
The electronic game community, have had discussions with them before we kind of started making games, and it seems to us, like I'm just speaking for that, Hasbro might actually be starting to lose ideas, because as of recently they've started making the game mashups.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
it's like they're relying on either licenses
They are.
or remixing their own product.
Well, let me tell you,
And
you're,
that's kind of
very perceptive. That is their agenda right now, is to build their own brands, and I had a big argument with them off the record. The game that you're going to see that's a Simon game is not Simon, nor is it Bop It. It is one of the coolest things we've ever created. It's one of the coolest games. And we finally agreed to let them put the Simon brand on it, but I'm very disappointed because it should be its own new, the reason you see all these things like Bop It, Tetris, and Smash is because they're afraid. Those weren't invented to be branded Bop It. They're invented as, I've created a lot more games than Bop It, and yet they keep putting Bop It on them when I sell them to Hasbro. Or Simon. So the problem for me is it sort of takes away my inventorness by making them fit their brands, but on the other hand, they're in a pickle because if they don't put a brand on it that the retailers know, the retailers say they're not going to carry a new brand. So it's about marketing dollars, and they're struggling as well to make the prices work. So it isn't as easy as it sounds to just say, oh, just do a new name. They're having trouble. So it's not for lack of creativity, it's more for a business model of marketing. And I just thought that would be, valuable for you guys to sort of hear how that works.
understandable, and I'm thinking similar thing though, because Big Monster invented torch in 2000, and you kind of had to step in on that because of how kind of an infringement. I saw the other interview you had with Joe. You had to kind of step in on that because it was too much of an infringement on how Bop It worked, and they listened to you. But then 10 years later, they would release Bop It Bounce. Was it a similar thing with the Tetris where they would just slap the name on, or did something happen with Hasbro where they allowed Big Monster to use the name?
They were really upset because it's the same as me. If I invented, if I invented a brand,
I cut off, unfortunately. Could you repeat that? I unfortunately didn't hear you.
Let's say I invented I invented Smash, and it wasn't called Bop It Smash. I invented Smash, and let's say they had called it. This is why I'm having the same problem. That if they said, "That's cool, Smash is cool. We're gonna call it, but we're gonna call it Simon Smash," and for that reason, we're going to pay the inventor of Simon, extra money, and it's now an identity under their brand. Well, then you guys, it's like no one's happy because I'm like, I don't want to share my invention with some guys who just did a Simon that has the game when the gameplay has nothing to do with the new innovation. It shouldn't be the same brand, but they, that's why the fact that I've invented that I'm Bop It and Smash, they could do it without it being a problem. But when you have, so what happened is it's the same thing. They invented a brand new game that wasn't called Bop It Bounce. They didn't want it to be called Bop It Bounce. And Hasbro said, well, we want to put it under an existing brand, so we're going to put it under the Bop It brand. And even though I get paid a little bit for that, it's like I don't like having someone else's invention build off of my inventions. And it sort of takes up a spot, Hasbro can only do one Bop It maybe every couple years, one new Bop It. So what it did was it knocked one of my products that I was going to do out of the running, and I don't get paid much for it, and I don't think it's a Bop It. You know what I mean? It didn't fit this, and
it's actually been deemed by some people in the electronic game community as the worst Bop It product to be under the licensing because it has absolutely nothing to do with it. And a similar thing I want to mention. I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but a similar thing I wish to mention though is that they've actually done something similar. I don't know if you know about it though, but I'm going to inform you. When Bop It Extreme 2 went to Germany, they actually renamed it under the Simon brand and called it the Simon Challenge.
Simon was well known in Germany and Bop It wasn't, and they told me about that, and we worked that out. I'm not happy about it, and it's something where you just can't control that, and it's for marketing reasons that they do things like that. I mean, it's worse if a toy never sells, but you know, Bop It Bounce. To make matters worse, I think what I might have shared, and then I'm looking for my old videos, is we had created a bouncing ball Bop It, but it was much cooler, where it said bounce it, catch it, and there was a cool little, you held it with two hands, and you actually, almost like Smash, when you bounced it in the air, you when it said to catch it, you had to snack it, and it would actually catch the ball and release it. It was so much more Bop It-like. And the problem was that, the biggest problem with Bop It Bounce was it wasn't up to the standards of what we would consider Bop It worthy. So that's how Bop It, so when I try to tell people that is not my invention, and, without politically trashing it publicly, that's how those things happen. So, a lot of people who are not as aware say, why didn't you do this, or why don't you do this idea or that idea? And we have to remember, there's only so many ideas you can do under a brand, and it's not infinite. So you have to pick very carefully which ones you bet on. And that's, sometimes people are dead wrong. So, it's tough to get it right every time. That's what I'll say.
That's understandable, especially with how the algorithm, it seems that a lot of companies, like Inventor and company relationships, I've heard, tend to be really rocky, and I have game concepts of my own I'm thinking of sending off to Mattel or Hasbro, not as like a Bop It game, but as its own individual thing. But from what I've heard, Hasbro can be a bit rocky toward how they do things and how you want to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually brings up.
Go ahead.
It actually brings up another question of mine regarding one of your games. What exactly is No Brainer?
No Brainer. I would love to do hold on 1 second. I was checking something.
Like, can you give us like a quick rundown of how it kind of was?
I will. In fact, sorry, I'm just looking at something here. Just a second. I have to send someone a note.
Okay, sure. Take your time. You have time to kill. Okay, just adjust that. Alright, now my dog is not looking like a giraffe. Oh, by the way, Sam, I want to mention to you, I might be trying to get myself a brain morph at some point.
Ooh, nice.
Which one would you recommend, the black one or the blue one, Sam?
Maybe the black one.
Alright, so Dan, can you give us a bit of like a
No Brainer.
on No Brainer?
No Brainer is something I've chased for many, many years. It did come out briefly. It wasn't, again, they didn't use us for the final code, and it was not executed well. The final one was, it started with a game that we did on Shockwave. We actually created one of the first successful Shockwave games. It was a very successful game for about, 6 months. I don't know if you've ever seen it or found a video of it. I would love for someone to recreate it in a language of some kind. That's one for you to, if you guys are interested in working on that in coding. It is a great game in that it is Bop It with words. So the concept of No Brainer is it'll give a category, things that you eat. And you have to say, and then it'll yell something out. So if I say, sandwich, you say yes, right? You shake your head yes. And on the software you used a mouse originally. You'd shake a mouse yes, so it was like a
So I'm guessing that in the actual thing there was like an accelerometer or something?
It was just a simple tilt switch, and it wasn't a very good one. So you shake your head yes. But in the Shockwave version on the computer, very successful, it would also read the word. You could see it too, which which made a difference. So it would say sandwiches, yes. Hot dogs, yes. Carburetors, no. Doormats, no. Tires, no.
That honestly, it reminds me a lot of the Jackbox game show game that they're still doing. In fact, actually, Tiger made a version of it. You don't know Jack.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but in terms of gameplay, this is extremely Bop It-like. It's that it gives.
Yeah, it's Bop It like understandable, especially it's just how it's designed and how it's themed is very similar to You Don't Know Jack.
It's true. This was before that, but just to drive a point, it was invented long before that. But it was how to take Bop It. The phenomenon of Bop It is that when you physically move something, you get in a pattern with your hands, and we had three things: yes, no, and no-brainer. And a no-brainer, you had to click the mouse, or in the game of no-brainer, you had to smack your head. So there's three things, and a no-brainer is it would say things that are alive except puppies. And so then it would say, so you have to answer things that are alive. And you'd say, so it'd say hamsters, yes. Ladybugs, yes. Doormats, no. Tires, no. Horses, yes. Carburetors, no. Puppies, no-brainer. You had to hit your head. So you see, you're basically giving no-brainers are questions that are so simple that you'll never get them wrong if you had enough time. But when you're under pressure with time, and the key to no-brainer is this: the next category comes up quickly. And whereas at first, as you noticed, it said things that you eat, and sandwiches was correct and carburetors was wrong, then it says things that are part of your car. Sandwiches, no. Carburetors, yes. Puppies, no. Tires, yes. So the answers that your brain starts to associate with certain words never is stable. It always changes depending. So the topics, the nouns are not, there's maybe only 50 nouns in the game, but there's many categories, and depending on the category, it shifts what's a yes and what's a no. So the reason no-brainer works is because your muscle memory can't really get a handle on it. You get better at it as you play it more, but you understand it's the same thing as why you can't play Bop It perfectly every time, because at some point, unless you're Sam-tastic, you get confused when you play Bop It. So that's why the difference between Jackbox and this and all these games is that, they're all very similar. We're just using always the physical muscle memory against you. That's the secret to why certain games work and certain ones don't, in my opinion, of the type that I've tried to create. So, playing with that is, and we had the Spin Master was going to do it this last year, and they decided not to. So we're still working on how to bring No-Brainer back. And also,
that sounds like something actually we could probably do.
Yeah. Well, you should. I mean, as an app.
As another hobby project, not as what we've been doing.
Nobody owns that one right now, so you guys work on it as like I said, work on something as a hobby project. In those, nobody can tell you not to, because I think the rights have all expired. Unfortunately, we didn't keep up the trademark. We owned the trademark for No-Brainer for a game, and it costs money to hold those, and I believe it expired, which is too bad because I really like it.
Can I ask who distributed the headset edition?
Yeah, Vivid of the UK, Vivid Toys, and Hasbro actually imported it here for a short time as well.
Understandable, yeah. Actually, on the topic of stuff like that, I'd like to bring up, we have a plan now. I could add that in, No-Brainer. We actually have a plan for a revival of Groove It. Groove It, as seen in the gameplay and how it works, it's very motion based. It's like the same as Bop It, using your hands, movement and stuff. It's always unpredictable, but it's with light sensor. Now, you said that the objective what you guys make, like with Bop It and Simon and Hyperdash and stuff, is to animate the player. So, what about animating the player in like a virtual reality setting, bringing Bop It into a VR setting.
Yeah, it's been discussed many times. I mean, I think it's absolutely a cool thing to do to try. And people have done it. I've seen people have sort of done simulations with it. You know, I've seen people try to make Bop Its with their VR headsets and AR. You know, I think it's really cool if someone can pull it off, and I don't know if Hasbro, you know, that's interesting, is that's the kind of thing that Hasbro, if someone were to approach Hasbro with it, you know, then it has to go through their whole division, and they want to do a branded game that's like an Electronic Arts or a top-notch agency. You know, they don't just give out the rights to anyone. Plus, they charge a lot of money to someone for the initial upfront fee. So that's why you don't see it, is until someone really believes they can make money on it, they're not going to do a branded version of Bop It. However, they might do something that's basically the same, you know, idea as I've shown you the Bop It rooms, and you know, we've created the idea of a video game long ago where the entire room was you know, open it, close it, flush it, pull it, you know, slap it. Like the idea that you can bopify an entire room would be amazing in an AR, you know, version. We're just tired.
Yeah,
you know,
sounds
like
actually.
anything you guys have the energy or time to create that's like that, you can do things that aren't branded Bop It. No one can tell you not to. You know, that's why I keep saying, do things that you love, that are really great games, and if you go, hey, this could be branded Bop It, and once it's kind of got some legs under it, if it's successful, then maybe there's a chance to sort of bring those things in and say, you know, I can say, hey, this is a cool game. I know the guys who did it. Maybe there's a way to sneak in a Bop It license without it costing a lot. But the reason that's steering you away is it's just too expensive to go at it that way.
Yeah, that's the complete opposite of what we wanted to do. That's why we came to you first.
Right. But it's okay. It's okay to do it. I'm just saying I can't. There's nothing wrong with you doing a Bop It.
You can't control the outcome.
I can't control the brand. Yeah, I can't give you permission to use the brand, but I can definitely give you advice to create games that are Bop It-like without branding them Bop It, and get the game really good, and do it as a tribute to Bop It, but then if it's good enough, maybe we can get the brand. But it's, you know, that's just making sure you don't count on that, because it's out of my control as well.
Understandable. And actually, you know what? This brings up a question, because I've been thinking about something like this before. If the game does successful enough and Hasbro really likes what we've done or what we do, is it possible that we could receive a commission from them? I know this is probably something that's a very out there thing, but have Hasbro done something like this before?
Where they've paid someone to
where they've commissioned someone to make them basically another game in a similar format.
I don't know. I mean, look, they work with the #1 developers in the world. You know, when they do things, they don't do them small. They're not good at working with small independent groups. And I mean, if they decide to do something, they go, you know, interview EA and Blizzard, and they kind of either do it big or they don't do it at all. So they're not in the business of finding little groups and sort of commissioning them to do things. They just don't do it that way. Like, they don't do independent things. They don't say, let's just do a Bop It game. They say, we're going to do a suite of games based on our properties. Who can we get that's big enough to do all 10? We want to do Bop It and Simon and, you know, Furby, and like they'll get a division of people that are big enough to take on everything. And the problem is they miss exactly what you guys are. They miss the passion and the feel for the game. So
yeah, because it's more about corporate to them than passion.
But that's why I really believe in you guys. If I can see or play something that, you know, works well, I'll do what I can to sort of figure out how to go around the ropes and let you, you know, I there's nothing wrong with saying endorsed by the inventor of Bop It. It It doesn't have to have a Bop It logo. It doesn't have to, there's certain things you can do until it's okay, or if we say, part of Bop It for good, or whatever it is. There's ways to get around. Well, the whole point is there have to be things that a lot of people want to play. And if a lot of people want to play them and they're successful, then I think you go back and I can say, look, this is a great game. I think, you should consider it. I'm just giving you realistic terms that it isn't something that's done a lot, but it doesn't mean it's impossible, but you should do it. You should do it because you're passionate about it and that you believe there might be a way with the community to, to create something that you can sell at some point. And that's what I've said every time, sell an unbranded version of it that says a tribute to so-and-so and, ask for a donation. Hey, if you like this game, we're just trying to support blah, blah, blah. Do a shareware version of something. And if you get enough people to like it, or, I'm happy to, through my social media, if you guys create something great, I'm always happy to say, hey, you should check out this game these guys did. So I'm trying to help however I can, but I, and say,
well, let me just say we appreciate it a lot.
Yeah. One thing I want to talk to you.
A question.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm just trying to. I'll have to wrap up pretty soon, but I just wanted to. Yeah, tell me if you have any other questions. I do want to talk to you about the Bop It book.
I think that one thing I generally want to ask, and this is like one of my last few questions, would be, you said you wanted to tie this in somehow to Bop It for good. My only question is, how would you do that?
How I might do it. Sorry. Trying to find something here. Let me do that.
Hey, Sam, to smash it.
I know.
I heard a smash it. The way I would do it is if there was a game that. Sorry, I activated my smash it. The way I would.
Yeah, Sam has like several.
Sure is. That was a gray one. The way I would do it is I would put something on my Bop It for Good website as it starts to get more traction, and I would say download this fan created app here. Please donate $5, if you like it, to Bop It for Good, and then I might say plus some money back to the creators to help support their nonprofit development. That's what I think is the best way to do it, is to kind of give people the sense that it's for a good cause if you create something that people like. But just that's one, partly to promote. If I get a lot of traffic somewhere, as I've done with some artwork and things, I'm going to try to do a lot more of just supporting Bop It fans on the Bop It for Good site by posting things they do and create. If someone wants to, design something and I can help them sell it there, and I think it's something cool for Bop It fans, then I have a place for it.
Absolutely, and I completely support that. We support everything you do. I think that the biggest thing about this is, can you say on your website, as it's your website, if it's like a recreation of a past product that never really got its day?
Yeah, except I think a lot of people, what I'm confused about is, you're not talking ever about making a three-dimensional product, right? More a.
No. We don't plan to make it as an actual product, like a 3D game. No, we've kept it as we said we would keep it, and that's really all we can do as a video game.
Well, I'm just saying it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to do tooling and things for real games, so that's why it's hard for people. But all I'm saying is to take a game that was never a mobile game, like NuJam, and say you've created a simulation or a mobile version of this game is, of course, I'd say look at these great fans that have made that have done that have recreated NuJam in a digital form. Of course, I would support that, and I would absolutely feature it on my website and show people show it off, and thank you for it, all those things.
Yeah, especially like, well, Bop It obviously, like, you sent that screenshot a while back of it, which I don't, we don't have that anymore. Off topic. If Bop It can make a jump to mobile and pretty much be on par with how the physical game can do, then NuJam, as it's pretty much almost pretty much another version of Bop It, can do the same thing.
It can.
As Rockout.
It can. It's just, again, expectation on volume of numbers is, as you know, certain games take off and certain ones, there's a lot of games out there that don't get a lot of love. So it's all about word of mouth, and once, whether there's a game that just people absolutely are addicted to, that's why the game has to be great, and every little detail has to be great if you want people to play it and play it again, as you guys would. So as I keep saying, once you're there and you have something that's absolutely fun and your community really, really is addicted to it, then I think there's a lot we can try to help with.
Yeah. Another question would be, this is going to be my last one in terms of it. Then I'd like to know about the book. In terms of Rockout, if Rockout tends to become popular enough, where to the point where people want to see it more, what can we do to kind of expand it? Like, could it have like its own sort of merchandise line, or would that be within calls of Hasbro?
Look, it's your game. You name it your name. I think if it looks identical to NuJam, then it's just more that you're never, as long as you're never creating, which you're not able to or planning to, a physical copy of the toy. If you're gonna do, plush NuJam, plush Rockout guitars or things like that, we'd say merchandise or T-shirts or hats. I don't think anyone, you just should recreate, or you are recreating the artwork, the digital artwork or the imagery. I don't think you should worry about it. I think it's nice, as I said, to say, if it looks like a NuJam and everyone goes, isn't that NuJam? It's better to say Rockout and, a NuJam tribute game. Something that doesn't, it just would fix it so nobody says, why does it look like, why didn't they do their own design? Like, it's got to really make sense to people, and that's just my marketing advice.
I understand that. I think that what we're actually going to be doing is, we're going to design the model of the guitar to have a similar bass to the NuJam, but we're going to make it more like a real guitar and more of a like a fly or like a sharp modern feel, rather than just being a complete recreation of NuJam, as well as with the original model that was supposed to be kind of like a Bop It. But that's an idea. Like, we can give it like a laser string. We can give it stuff like that. We could make stuff like that, and like and obviously if it's now a KID permitted game, I think this has some potential to go into something almost like that, or almost like I see the NuJam in the background.
This
something
was
almost
one of the
in that style.
This was one of the I did a bunch of form studies of cool shapes that could be, this is the slider. These are just super fast, foam. But it could be.
Understandable. Like something, but more like a real guitar. In fact, actually, I have a Fender guitar as a reference because that one is one I've known for a long time. That one is not one I've had for a long time.
Or like the power tool.
No, not like that. Similar, but how do I put this? I mean, like, almost like, and we actually have ideas for like we have a double neck model, and we had an idea to scrap the free jam mode for in place of a possible one-on-one mode. It would call it dual jam.
That's cool.
Yeah, one of my support workers had an idea of like a battle royale where you could play like Rhythm Jam online, where one person does a riff and they have to copy theirs.
Yeah, I think that sounds like, you know what? Actually, I like that idea. I think that, but running servers would be a big thing. But yeah, I think we're.
Yeah, Sam. There was a message that my wife Alicia, who checks my social media, said you left a message that I can't find. Did you have a question specifically?
Oh yeah,
I
was asking if you knew anyone who any developers out there who would best help us develop the game or anything like that.
Yeah, that's actually something we've been considering asking you. Like, if there's anybody at KID or anybody outside, because I think that the biggest part, like, making the game is easy. It's the synchronization with the riffs that are going to be a bigger task.
Well, for someone to understand it, I don't, knowing at KID we're very small. We know we don't have any time or we don't have the capability at the moment in house. But not really. I would there's so many developers out there, so many young kids out of school. I think the same way you're looking for voice, you should just look for the right kind of, look for people that are interested in music and that are coders. Some young people that are just starting that want to get involved. I really, guys, don't think there's any, like, of the developers we worked with Electronic Arts or these kind of things. They're not going to work on this with you.
Well, actually, yeah, and there have been we're considering hiring an indie studio, because there have been, like, ever since the release of Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff like that, indie developers and indie games have become a lot more of a popular source.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that's what I thought you guys are sort of marketed as, or should be, as you're trying to create an indie studio, but it's a lot of people. The indie studios aren't just a couple people. Often, it's a pretty big team.
Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's a team.
Right. Depends how complicated the game is. But in terms of creating all the artwork and the this and the coding, it depends. So, anyway,
I think as we're running low on time, I'd like to ask if we can know about the book.
Yeah, the book, which is just a mock-up of, I would love to know, well, there's a couple of things. One, I would like to do something about Bop It fans in it, and have, as I said, I'd like to feature who, that Bop It has some amazing fans, like you guys. There's a bunch of people that have posted things in the past or videos. If you have a world record, Sam, on something, I'd like if you can give me anyone you know. I'd love the list of who you consider has the world record on every
Yeah,
type
someone
of Bop It.
has 264 on Classic on Bop It Beats, and no one's ever got that before.
Well,
Yeah, me and Sam are constantly racing for that.
Well,
Yeah.
I would love it if you guys, it's motivating you guys to be there so that you would be in the book. So you have about a month to put together, if you hold a wet record as of the, writing of the book, I would be happy to put you as in the little section we're going to have on Bop It World Records.
Nice!
So,
I'd
like you to show me, focus on Bop It person that talked to me or sent me something. I don't know if that's someone within your group, but fastest to 100, for instance, is a record that I don't know if you've ever tried, Sam.
I've tried that one before. Yeah. And there was a guy called August. I had a world record on Bop It Tetris for a long time, and he beat me a couple of years ago.
Well, it's okay to, I think so. Really, as much as if it's for you, what I would like is if you can put together every record you can imagine on Bop It, or one that you would like to see. And
Yeah.
if you guys can try to beat your own records. You can get your own, and even if you're not the ones, I will still mention you and show you guys as thanks to Sam and people who are here who have helped me put this list together. So it doesn't matter, but I would love it if you are featured in some way as Bop It fans who've set records of some kind. So I'm going to give you a month to document that and show me what is it, a good picture of you with the product and a YouTube link to the, because we're gonna do some QR codes in the book to YouTube links to say here's how you watch, the world record.
Yeah.
So so that's my ask of you is if you want to be in the book, now's the time to do that.
Okay, yeah.
Can I ask about the book if there's going to be, like, if there could add, like, a section where there could be Bop It related artwork or original ideas made by fans?
There might be. The book, it depends how many, we don't have a lot of room in it. There's a lot of stuff to tell. It might be a couple of things, not like full pages of any kind, and maybe it would basically say, check bopitforgood.com. In the book, it would give a link, say, for more. It would go directly to fan art. But things we can't fit in the book, we would then have links to. So anything you have, be honest, it's got to be something pretty.
Well, you've seen all of what I do.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have some of that. But if you're thinking of a
Yeah,
book,
a lot of people say I make official stuff. Which, by the way, I'd be more than happy to design that cover for you, since you said it's a mock-up.
right? Well, I appreciate the offer. I've got a pretty hot shot designer who did like covers for Nirvana's albums and things, and I don't mean to. I think the fan art would be another area, and I think you're doing great. There's no reason why you should be at the level of one of the top graphic designers in the world, but just so you know, I'm trying to have the level of things in this book be pretty high. I'm trying to get a forward by someone quite famous.
And I understand that. I'm just offering. I'm always offering my services, since people say the Bop It artwork I do, and in fact I've done work like on a Nickelodeon logo one point.
Yeah.
They keep. Since I do a lot of the Bop It artwork.
So let me just say, anything you have that you please never hesitate to show me, but don't feel bad if I don't.
Oh, I show you everything I have, including like that Bop It for Good logo I sent you, which at the top I.
Let me just give you more advice as a designer. I've gone through many years of design school and taught design at many colleges, and it's always good to be super honest with all of my students. And so I want to just make sure you know that you're doing great for my opinion of it's amazing what you've taken on. You can always, but my rule in design, especially when you're young at it, starting it, is always assume that whatever you've created is a 5 out of 10, even if you're in love with it. And always assume you can make it twice as good as it is, because you're going to look back on the artwork you're doing now as you get better, and you're going to go, oh my God, I thought I was really good then. Look how good I am now. And the way you get there, I'm just saying, as much as you feel that and people will tell you that, you're going to get much better. And so always keep that edge. I didn't invent things by saying, that's good enough. I push and push and push, and I keep saying that a thing I have, I think it's a 10, but it's actually, nope, it's a 5 out of 10 until I prove otherwise. So my one bit of advice to you, don't get defensive or don't get, is none of us can ever afford to think that what we have is as good as we can do. And so my blunt advice to you is you're on your way, but know that you can do better and you will do better, and just keep working at that. And eventually, I think my way of saying to be at a professional level as a graphic designer takes a lot of work, and little things that you don't see now, you're going to see later as you develop your eye. So keep working at it, and really be open to people when they say, yo, it's so professional. Push them and say, but tell me what you would do better. Like, really ask for advice, because it's so easy to get friendly advice is never that helpful. Get advice from people who are super critical, and you will improve drastically. I hope that's okay to tell you that.
And there's been times where people actually, and I'm pointing this out to like my friend Kane and Annie, they've actually seen, because I've made some artwork of Bop It before, like the eye dog idea, which I sent you before, I think months ago. They actually said that they could most likely be an official product if it went well.
I know, but they're not being. You guys have got to be more honest with yourself about the level of professionalism out there. Really?
Yeah, I know that. I know that. It's just I'm just glad to hear people feel that way about the stuff I do. It's just all fan work. I'm sure that people, you've heard that stuff before.
Yeah, but my advice is you're very talented. Get even better, and that's really important for anyone to know the difference. This is being really blunt, expert advice. Remember, I've taught many classes, and I speak from experience that the people that know the difference between a 9 and a 10 are the ones that succeed. A lot of people know the difference between a 7 and a 10 in terms of ideation, gameplay, graphic design. It's the people that can see the difference and know what it needs to make a 9 into a 10. And it takes a lot of work to do that, a lot of honesty with yourself. And I'm still doing it, and I've done it for 50 years. So I'm not, be able to take criticism as an artist and really turn it into something better. And when I say, I appreciate the offers, it's that, I have to work with extremely high-end professional artists on the book for the design, and it isn't that I wouldn't love to include things, but just be clear what the difference is between what someone can do at one stage versus how good people are that are experts in their field, and be that and become that expert. That's my pep talk to you. So that's in terms of the artwork anyway. It would be fine to share it in a certain area, but remember, this book has to be really good. So my other thing to ask for your contribution on is I would like to also hear, if it wasn't me and then you didn't know me and you saw a Bop It book on the shelf and went, oh my God, a book about Bop It, what are 3 things you hope would be in it?
The 3 things I would hope would be in it would be development of how Bop It has evolved, fan works, and what could be planned for the future.
So let me say, so you think
It's just me though.
how Bop It has evolved, so the creation story, fan involvement or fan work or fan
Involvement, fan work, however it works, and stuff like that.
and what's the future?
And then
of
like
Bop It?
the future, like once the book is made, like what ideas you have for Bop It in the future that you hope to do someday.
Oh, cool.
That's just an idea.
What about flops that never made it?
I think that could be part of maybe the evolution idea.
Flops. Yeah, flops.
Yeah, what you had to learn, what you had to learn from, what you had to learn from in the past. Like as you said, the original Hammer was rejected by MGA. You learned from that from when you made Bop It, and you keep getting these rejected versions of Bop It. That's how you kind of evolve. That's how you kind of evolve the toy. How you make it better. How do you listen and stuff like that.
And there was
That could
also
be an idea.
there was also
What
some
about-
Bop It knockoffs as well, wasn't there?
Knockoff. What about you, Sam Tastic? What would you hope if you picked a book off the shelf and opened it up? What would you say? Yes. Besides those things, is there anything else you can think of?
Well, back then, a few years ago, when people started discovering all these test modes in the games, that's something that could go into the book.
Okay, well, I'm still waiting for a list of every test mode. If you guys can tell me every test mode you know from any Bop It,
Yeah.
I will accredit you in the book as being the creditors of these are verified by, Sam and Sam as
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, though, not every test mode for every game we have has been documented. There are a few that are missing. We don't know how to access all of them, but there are some very interesting things about the test mode because Bop It Extreme 2 actually has 2 test modes.
That's right.
And I think that, and now, this is my real final question for you. I saw actually you made a stuffed Bop It on your TikTok. I want to ask about that. What's that?
I'm trying to make one. I'm trying to make a plush Bop It. I'm making Bop It pillows. I want to do plush Bop It I want to do one that's just plush that doesn't do anything, and I want to do one that you bop and it makes a funny noise. It says, you know.
You mean like little sensors on the inside? You just squeeze in, it'll make like the noise, like if you do the bullet.
Like more that you could just whack it on something. More, you know, that you could bop it on because it's soft, and that you could hit someone with it or hit yourself or whack it on your arm, and it would go bop it and say something funny, like not the full game, but I do have a full working game that I made in a plush Bop It. I took a mini Bop It and put it inside a plush, and someday I think it'd be pretty cool to do that.
You gotta show us that now at some point.
Yeah, I have it here. I will do it. I'll do a video on it, and
yeah, please do.
Because
I'm really interested in that.
But what do you think? I mean, you're fans, so you probably would rather it work, but what do you think of it just being, what if it's just big, cool, just basically it was this design. It was like, but a nice big plush that looks like a Bop It, and it's just really a pillow that's shaped like a Bop It. What if it, do you think fans like that even if it doesn't work, or do you think if it's going to be a Bop It pillow, it's got to have a sound chip in it?
Well, maybe what I was one would just be just a regular pillow or something, and then you would have a deluxe one which would have the sound effects.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, what I'm thinking of doing is just taking the Unibop chip, once that's created, and just add that. You can stuff that inside of the Bop It pillow, and then it's really just like a Unibop inside of a Bop It pillow. So it's just Bop It, because then, you know, you don't have to deal with mechanisms and things to make because once you start connecting the twist and the pull it and stuff, it's no longer a soft plush pillow. So I kind of think just having it be a Bop It.
Well, maybe a suggestion I could have would be like not to have it actually like mechanical, but have just like click buttons in it where you would just squeeze the moves instead of actually, you know, pulling them or something.
Yeah, it's possible. I have ways to do actually.
And then like just take a programming from my best guess, maybe one of the keychains would probably be a good fit.
Yeah. No, we have. Well, keychain is the same programming as it's the same code. It's not. It's the size is smaller, but it's the same code. So anyway, those are just thoughts. Honestly, I'd love to include you guys in whatever in the book as super fans, and you're just suggestions. Again, I don't want to come out with a book and have some of the biggest Bop It fans say, "Oh, you should have had blank." So really think, if you think, even if I've already thought of it, you know, what do you hope is in a Bop It book? I'd love to throw that out to you in the community and say, looking for
That could be
suggestions.
something you could actually ask on the server. I can create an announcements or updates channel for you, and you could make a ping for everybody, and then you could ask them to send you a direct message on what they'd like to see in it.
Sure. Yeah. What do you think, Samtastic? Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, yeah.
Maybe, could there be a thing, actually, where you talk about maybe, like, some stuff you made, like, for Tiger or stuff past? Just about your
other games besides Bop It. Yeah, I know. I'm going to have a chapter on, you know, other games, you know, before and after Bop It. What else, you know, if that's what you mean. Just the genre in general.
And do you know anything, actually, about... So I've been told that there's a new... for the 25th anniversary, Super Impulse is making a Tiny Bop It. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, no, I'm the one who's working on it with it. It's a little Bop It. It's going to have a Bop It for Good logo on it, on the package, not on the Bop It. And it's it's going to have.
Is it going to be like the original? Is it going to be the original one, or is it going to be more of a modern style one?
It's the original, but it's going to have the current voice chip. So it's not
like Buddy Rubino.
Yeah, it's going to be the original design but the current voice with the current gameplay, only because it was too difficult to recreate, that we don't have the old stuff in the right form, and the time factor.
I'm assuming that's far in your archive somewhere, deep down.
Well, it's just a lot of complications with it, but the bigger thing was that they didn't want to burn a new chip. Like there's a whole process of chip making, and that this was then ready. Although there's a bunch of issues with it anyway, so it's a little, it's going to be late. It was supposed to be out by now, but it's going to be late because there's a big problem in China with chip suppliers, as you may have heard. So that's one of the issues. But yeah, that's hopefully it'll be out, and it has this cool little stand that says 25th Anniversary Bop It on it, and so it's kind of cool that it's the original shape but the current voice, so that kind of bridges the 25 years.
Is it going to have original sound effects, or is it going to have the modern sounds?
It's the whole new modern sounds.
Yeah, that would kind of be distracting from like how. But you know what? That's just how I feel toward it. But
what are you distracting in that you wish it was?
Distracting in the sense that not only is it's a mix of generations. Really, it's a weird mix of the generations of Bop It.
Yeah.
In a sense.
It is. It's definitely a mix. It leaves room for coming out with another one that is the authentic, original sound someday, and it's possible we should have waited on it, but you got to make decisions and get them out. Hearing you.
Sorry, I cut out. Do you know if anybody in KID or Hasbro even still has the sound somewhere?
We don't know where in all the different moves in 25 years of companies, some of that stuff it's there, but it's just too hard for people to access. So
you can't find it right away.
Probably could. I mean, it's just or potentially you could take an existing one and probably figure out some way to pull the sounds off good enough.
We've actually done something like that. So Sam, can you tell Dan about the coil?
Yeah, so we have a coil wire. You can connect it to a dictaphone, and then we can record all the sounds off the device that way.
What does it connect to?
Like a dictaphone, like a recorder.
But why does it? It's just like a microphone, or is it a different?
Sam, can you explain what the coil does?
It has like a suction cap, and it can detect anything like electrical, like any sound like electrical.
Actually, I have an example of one of the coil wire things. So there was a game called Slaps released in 2004 by Character Options, which that company I don't believe is around. But it has the music. Me and Sam call it the funny music game. But this is an example of how how the sounds can be ripped from us anyway from the coil wire. It can't detect any like interference. In fact, actually, Sam has coiled the Bop It Tetris test mode a few times. In actually both versions, both English and as we call it, the Dommage Boy, which I'd be happy to explain the origin of how that kind of started.
I think, unfortunately, I have to run in a few minutes.
Yeah, I know
but,
that.
I think that's interesting. It might be if you had the ability to pull the original Bop It sounds off and they were of higher quality than they could find. It's possible, that I might try to make a version with that.
No, actually, I do want to mention something to you. There was this arcade game called Crank It Up that I learned about. I wasn't very interested in it until there was actually a sound effect in there that caught my attention. When you the aim of the game is that you got to release the ball into these gears and make sure they're in the right slot, so it'll go up and you'll get the bonus spin. when you release it, I heard this. It has the original twist sound from the Bop It.
It's
I'll have to find that video.
possible because the original twist sound, those were just done from a sound files. They were probably either public domain or something.
I believe that somewhere though, you might be able to get that. You might be able to contact those people. I will send you that video of where it is. I don't know the company who made it, but that sound is in there. But unfortunately, it's glitched. It only plays on the first year. It does not play on any of the other ones, so you can't repeatedly hear it.
But the fact that you can put the original Bop It in test mode and it just runs through all the sounds, feels like it's pretty easy to get all the sounds from there.
For the most bit, yeah, because the test modes are formulated differently for each one, because sometimes you'll either have to take the battery out, hold down the reset button, hold down one of the switches. It's always complex.
Yeah. Have you found...
And especially, go ahead.
Yeah. Have you found any other, sometimes the engineers don't like to tell me, have you found any other test modes in the character Bop Its, or it's just a reset button?
I think it's all just the reset button. Do you know that, Sam?
Yeah, well, all the character Bop Its, they're all part of it's the same test mode in the Bop It Micro, and yeah, they literally use the same method of getting into it.
But I haven't been able to get them to do anything, but you can just hit reset, but when I hold reset or do battery...
You can't hold... Usually in a Bop It, they don't do hold reset.
You might have to hold down Bop It or pull it or something like that.
I haven't been able to get the Yoda or anything like that to do anything other than they won't. Batteries out, hold down this. I don't see anything that surprises me. I've never found it, so I'm curious if it's because they do something else now that the factory's doing it differently. So if you find any test modes on a character Bop It, let me know.
If you stick around here, you're gonna see a lot of them. I think that a lot of the characters Bop Its have the same. Well, they all pretty much have the same programming, to tell you the truth.
There's actually one game that we haven't found the test mode for. Somebody found it, and that was Torx. And there was a guy.
But Torx is not. Torx is a tricky game, actually. We don't know how to get in it because they had to glitch into it by making it malfunction. That's another. And actually, there are a lot of Tiger games, even Perplexus though, that have a test mode, but we've been unsuccessful in finding a lot of them.
We did, that original Perplexus. You know why we had to put in the why it's electronic is because I tried to sell it to a bunch of companies and Tiger really liked it, but they're called Tiger Electronics, so they said we can only do it if it's got electronics in it. So that's why we created that music and the whole. I really like that spooky music in that one. If you have.
Yeah, I get that. In fact, actually, there's a similar thing though. Kane got a game recently called Bolzerko. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, that was definitely an early kind of Perplexus-y type game. Although it's Perplexus really was different because it was three-dimensional.
Yeah, Bolzerko's they're very similar. But I think what's interesting about Bolzerko though, it's very Sega Genesis sounding, like a very 90s sound font.
Yeah, no, it's cool. That was done, before Perplexus. But Perplexus was, is an amazing product because of the combination of industrial design and...
Who currently distributes it?
Spin Master.
Spin Master? Are they affiliated with Hasbro, or are you just doing it on their own?
They're competitors. Spin Master is becoming one of the biggest toy companies in the world.
They made a game called Silly Sausage.
Well, Spin Master...
yeah, that's...
They didn't
do it.
Spin Master imported it from a company called John Adams in England.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that game, actually, Silly Sausage? It's pretty much a top Bop It competitor.
It was a Bop It knockoff. I know the people, the inventors who created it, they apologized to me, like, oh, we didn't know, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's a little bit of honor among inventors as not to rip each other off, even if you can get away with it. And, it's pretty easy to make, I guess just because they came up with a silly theme for it. It's like, well, it's funny, but what it does is it makes Bop It feel generic because you can do anything you want with it, and if people can get away with it, then it sort of diminishes the original one to me by people creating knockoffs and saying, oh, now anyone can do this is sort of what it says. And I think, it's just, it's weird. That's what I mean. If you do something that's basically someone else's game, but you don't attribute it to them, it's kind of like doing a song that's, copying someone's song and saying that it was your original idea. If you don't credit it or say it's part of a mashup. So, that's what I feel. Is I think it wasn't that clever because it was taking something we all knew you could do and just making money off of my idea without paying me. So, that's, I feel very honestly that they shouldn't have done it. And Spin Master distributed it because they were part of a deal to distribute other products for John Adams. It wasn't that they made it. They're friends of mine, and they never would have done it. If an inventor showed them that idea, they'd say, no, that's Dan's. Even though Bop It's not their product, Spin Master would never have done it. So,
so they know better. Like if someone if someone had presented them with a silly sausage, they were like, no, that's Bop It, can't do that.
All
right. So at least they respect you. Would Hasbro do the same?
Well, I have a deal with Hasbro for Bop It. So Hasbro can't do it because the contract I have with them says that I won't do a game similar to Bop It for another company, and they won't do a game similar to Bop It with another inventor. That's why, that's the way you make a deal with someone as an inventor. You're agreeing to be exclusive. If once you have a concept that's very defined, you don't ever sell the same idea to another company, or even a variation, even if you could get away with it legally. So that's just a relationship issue. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I have to go.
Yeah, understandable.
And,
Yeah.
I really hope you've gotten some answers today. As I said, I'm just.
We have.
I honestly don't apologize for not being able to keep more in touch. I have to compartmentalize my days, and I see the Discord. I have a notification, but I don't really look at it very often. And if you really want to get in touch with me, it's probably better to send me a note on Instagram. Other thing I want to tell you, Sam-tastic, is that I don't really check my Facebook Boptopus very often. I'm so focused on Instagram and TikTok. But why don't, if you message me on Instagram, I will probably always see it. So if you really want to get in touch with me, use Instagram first, and if I say fine, then you can take it to the Discord server to make sure I'm watching, because I will go back and check once in a while, but it's too hard for me to have too many apps to look at.
Yeah.
Understandable. And just so you know, Sam is really the only one who can contact you. I can't have any other contact at the moment.
Okay.
This is really all I have right now. But thank you, Dan, for taking some time today to talk to us. We have a little more insight on what we can do now for Rockout, as well as what you plan and what we can do. And we're very grateful for that. I'll be sending you a lot more artwork because there are a lot of people who are joining Bop It, really liking how the community is, and I'll be sending you drawings, hopefully weekly, if that ever gets done.
That's fine.
People are just very happy to be working with us.
I'm open to seeing everything. Can't promise anything, but I'd like to support and encourage as a designer, and that I really say you have about 30 days to submit things for the book, which are most likely world records, pictures, links to
When do you
videos.
plan to release the book?
In the fall. So, but we're on a deadline here, so anything you want to do, if you want to be noticed as a world record holder.
Hasbro's okay with the book?
It's my book, it's my story, it's not about, yes.
But using the name.
Yeah, but I can use the inventor of Bop It is it's fuzzy. Let's just say that it's possible that, but they're in favor of it. They understand why I'm doing it, and it helps promote them as well. So there's no issue. There's nothing legal. They can't tell a creator of a game not to write a book about the game they created. They can't. So they're encouraging me. They're going to help promote it in the fall. So that answers your question. So it could be a pretty big deal, and I just don't want you guys to miss out on a chance. If you have I think for you it's best specifically. Anything else you think should be in it that really stepping back to.
We can definitely let you know.
And clearly test modes, world records, and tell people that I'm open to suggestions for the next 30 days. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Thank you, Dan.
By the way, if you'll be around later, just for DM, I'm gonna send you something I kind of had an idea on. I know it's not a thing you can do, but it's just something I just wanted to share with you as you kind of do the Simon brand now.
You can share me anything you want. I said in my very long text to you, please assume I've thought of thousands of things that I don't share with you. I will be encouraging of your ideas, but I will never, I will never see an idea you have and say, great idea, how can I work on this with you? Just to be clear, it's just for your benefit as getting feedback if I give you a comment, but I'm just not in the business of looking for ideas from other people to incorporate unless they want to suggest things freely. Then, when I take suggestions like from online, I ask people, what do you think the Unibop should have? What do you think is I'm not saying, when I say great idea, I'm always careful to say, I don't want people to think I never thought of it before, but it's almost like a poll. I'm sort of just feeling out if people come up with the same things I already have, that helps me confirm that it's probably a good idea. So it is very helpful to have people suggest ideas on Bop It and Simon. It's just, I just want to make sure nobody's under the illusion that that somehow I'm going to say, great idea, here, you can be part of this product in any way, because it's not possible. But I hope that's okay, and that you understand that if there's a great suggestion, that's why I'm trying to give back however I can in other ways. So,
Okay.
Hope that helps,
Glad
and I
to hear that.
encourage anything you have, and I hope you guys, I want to help you be successful in whatever you're doing, so.
Thank you, Dan. We'll keep you up to date with what we're doing, and we'll ask for feedback on stuff, and we'll ask you about stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you for spending the time, and I hope to see some DMs from you guys soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
All right? Take it easy.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Dan.